Right, episode 3 of The Fringe under the Unscripted banner. Pablo, welcome to the new 5FM studios. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, I can't do no small talk, no small talk. I'm not with the small talk. Can't be with the small talk.
Pablo Lundall.
Yes.
You are
Lundall.
I knew I was going to miss that.
I also
because I don't know you as Pablo Lundall.
Of course.
I know you as part of Weston and Engine, and
Sure.
I also know you as part of like the entertainment scene and somebody who puts together gigs. So let's start by chatting about this past weekend. How many gigs did you have this last weekend?
So actually this weekend, or actually this month and the next month, I'm actually kind of taking it easy. I'm more kind of scheduling shows near the end of the month.
Okay. Cool.
Because the beginning half of this year was really hectic. We've just built a new entertainment group called Phonography Playground, and there's a whole lot of events, properties and branches of events that go under there. So a lot of this year has been about brand building, also while trying to maintain some sort of relevance in my DJ and music scene.
Yeah.
So this weekend I was actually off. But at the end, at this coming weekend, I've got 4 shows. Summit on Friday, which we've been a resident at Summit since it's opened.
Yeah, for sure.
Then I'm playing at another cool party called the Rooftop Project, hosted by a group of youngsters called Verve that I've taken under my wing and just kind of helping them guide their way and navigate their way through the industry. So I'm like,
you're now the second person to mention Verve. What's the on Unscripted? What's the story there? Who are these guys?
So Brandon, Kim, Alex, young, salt of the earth kind of people, trying to make their way and grow in this industry. I think just their heart and their intention and their passion is really kind of what makes them stick out. They have a great little following that's really, really enthusiastic, passionate about that kind of part of the scene. And obviously being in South Africa, we're so rich in music and rich in culture and rich in scenes and different industries and how they amalgamate and cross over. So they have a part of the industry which is quite young, which I haven't really seen a lot of, that's super passionate and really gets it. So I've taken them under my wing this year, kind of trying to help them direct that brand. So I'm a resident, or Weston Engine is a resident, a part of that experience. But I'm also helping them on the event side, just kind of help them get to where they need to be. They're such amazing people, and I think there's a lot of potential there that we can work on. Yeah,
we're gonna talk about your events in a bit. But when you say taking under your wing, what does that entail? Are you putting together business plans with them? Are you putting together like ideas? Like what's your vibe? Like how are you mentoring them?
So I mean, I've been doing mentorship for the last 10 years in this industry. I mean, almost as long as I've been in this industry. I could say I've been in this industry for about 15 years.
Right.
So since high school, I really got involved in this industry. But I noticed for me in my own personal journey that it took really a lot to actually get in and really penetrate this industry and kind of create a name for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, Weston Engine as a good example, you know, we had to kind of fight tooth and claw, and that's quoted by Lazarus Man in a Pulse Radio article, that we had to fight tooth and claw to get to where we were, to be noticed, to be acknowledged, for people to understand and see who we are, our releases globally before we even made any local releases. So I want to be a contributor to the industry in terms of helping people become better contributors a lot quicker than the time it took me to actually get involved. I think also because we're so rich as a country, we're rich in culture, as I just said, and rich in music. We're one of the biggest consumers of dance music in the world, if not the biggest. So the more our industry can grow and the more players it has, I see it having a much larger scale in terms of a global effect that we can have in the world.
Yeah.
So myself as a mentor, I want to try and help shorten the period it takes for them to make those kind of impacts. So the mentorship is more in line of conversations, kind of help them guide what their business plans are, help them with their experiences on the events, maybe assist with certain suppliers, resources, DJ lineups, helping them strike some certain venue deals and getting things right to a fair place where the venues can benefit and the brands can benefit, because after COVID, the entire terrain and environment is really different. You know, whereas pre-COVID, a lot of venues could dictate the way they wanted things to be.
Yeah.
And now kind of post-COVID, there's more of a compromise and more of a collaborative effort between venues and brands, because a lot of people are now conditioned to not going out past 12. I think that is something that the curfew and the lockdown has done to us.
Yeah.
So a lot more people opt for more day-night
for sure
experiences.
And pre-COVID, the electronic scene only started at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, 100%. I mean, there was a time where I would only go out from 11, you know, and kind of party the whole way through. And I think now people want more kind of day-night time offerings. So where people spend their time and what experiences they want to get for themselves, that has now kind of changed, because they're more picky about this.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have as much liquid income than we did before, and also we're in a recession, and there's all these moving parts, but the heart of what we do in this industry is about people and catering to people, and that's also something I'll touch on with Phonography and this new brand that we've just created, which is mainly about like cool bucket list experiences that we can put out into the market.
Okay, nice. All right, so when it comes to your actual style of music, let's move away from the events a little bit. Let's talk about what you play. How would you describe your style? What would you categorize the style that you play as? So
I think first and foremost, you can't really put Weston and Engine in a bracket.
No.
I think you understand that from our years of working together, even before you joined the 5FM family.
Yes.
I think our style of music, if I don't have to classify it as a genre, would be feel good, high energy, engaging, moody music.
Yeah. And everything from house music to pop music to electronic to whatever.
Okay, so let's just cut out the pop.
Yeah,
really
I said that on purpose.
So I think it's everything from electronica, minimal, deep tech, melodic house, deep house, to progressive, ethereal, and kind of high energy peak time techno.
Okay, cool. All right. So the core is very electronic.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about when you guys are playing. When you're talking to a specific crowd, do you feel as though there are people who come to hear the Weston and Engine style, or are you finding that you're blending in with the crowds a little bit more?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Cool.
I think there's still a lot of the pre-COVID perception that people will come and hear what we used to play at another resident gig that we had in Midrand at Truth. And a lot of people expect to receive kind of that very high energy, ethereal, melodic, progressive techno. But I would rather much stay on the path which is that we would play for the environment.
Right.
So I do think people that know our brand understand that if they're going to come and see us play whatever time during the day it is, it's not a really specific kind of sound that they're going to hear, but it will still deliver high energy, emotive, engaging, feel good kind of music. So I wouldn't really put it in a bracket. It's so difficult because myself as a promoter, when I'm booking artists for a setting or a time, I kind of look at where they play a lot in.
Yes.
But I also don't want to put artists in a box because, then you wouldn't be classified as an artist.
No, for sure.
So there is that whole thing where people do want to come and see and experience a familiar kind of a Weston Engine sound and style. But I do generally think that Sean and I like to kind of be a little bit more out the box, surprise people here and there.
Yeah. It's interesting because my generation, and when I say my generation, I mean the old school, very commercialized style of Hatfield DJs, I call it. We never really got the opportunity to play our own styles. It was a matter of you got booked for a venue, you played whatever the venue was going for.
100%.
And you played what the dude before you played or what the dude after you was going to play. So I'm finding it very interesting at the moment that people are booking me to play in venues, but they're booking me to play for the crowd kind of thing. Whereas your generation, I think, is a little bit more adapt to the idea of I'm going to play what I feel is best. And obviously you'll merge your style with what the crowd wants. But like when you get booked for a summit, for example, they're booking Weston and Engine. They're not booking you to go with the flow kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think there is a little bit of both. So I'm 33, so I think we're pretty much close to the same age group. So I've been fortunate enough, because I've been in this industry for the time that I have, that I've seen kind of the changes and the evolution, let's call it, for lack of a better word, of this industry and the music and the styles, and again, venues dictating what you could play back then to now, artists becoming more brands and venues being more intrigued and open to having brands showcase their venues.
Right.
So we do have a lot of consideration for who's before and who's after us, and I think any artist that plays on any kind of lineup should have that consideration, because that's not just a consideration for the flow of music, but that's a consideration for the way you're guiding people on the dance floor.
Right.
You know, you can't just go from some deep house that's like super feely, you know, warm and has a lot of depth to dropping Skrillex.
Yeah.
You know, as an example, like, you know, kind of two polar opposite extremes. However, you can still kind of cross over those genres in the way you intro that, and maybe there's parts of the previous set that has some kind of relativeness to what you're going to introduce, but it's generally a slow, steady, but you have to take into consideration who's playing before you and who's playing after you. Also the crowd, because now they have more access to music on the internet, building Spotify playlists, etc., I think the crowd is also a lot more educated than they were, you know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, when you just had vinyl, and guys were getting white labels where there was only a certain amount of number of those that were pressed and released. So I think it's great. It challenges artists to kind of work harder, because this kid or these young people or whoever it is in this crowd now have the same opportunity to gain access to the music that you have. So you have to kind of work harder to find something else that can capture them. So there is still a little bit of both, but I certainly wouldn't want anyone to dictate what I play. That's why you hire us, and that's why we're still around today.
No, for sure. And if somebody comes and requests a pop song, you say thank you very much, but that's not enough.
I think I should start wearing a t-shirt that just says no request, because it's just easier. But you will get it, and I think a big part of why you get that is because a lot of people that would come up to an artist and ask that are not really familiar with the culture and understand the role that the DJ or the artist is actually playing in the setting. That's the backbone of the entire experience. So I think after a few of those experiences, these people know, or it just takes one artist just to really give them a really hardcore cold shoulder, and then they understand their place. But I don't think you'll ever stop requests.
No,
I think that's just human nature.
No, and people, the more alcohol they have, the more they think that they're friends with the DJ. So
100%. I think DJs want to be friends with everyone, but I think there is kind of a limit to you being a professional and actually looking after the crowd that you're trying to play for.
No, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about some of the gigs that you've been organizing recently.
Sure.
So you just had a huge show at Sonnage.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
With a wide variety of artists. I mean, my first guest from Unscripted, Suede Shift. Did
love those boys.
Yeah, I love them as well.
Little brothers.
Yeah. So talk to me about the business side and when you're booking major productions and that sort of thing. What are you going for? Like, what's your aim?
So, I think the one thing that separates us, with regards to us being event punters, promoters, event coordinators, festival owners, club owners, industry leaders, community leaders, educators, producers, DJs, is that we wear many hats.
Right.
So just by that list of things that I just announced now, those are the things that I do. And to do them consistently every year, you need to be at the top of your game in all of them, because if you're not spending time on one, you kind of lose focus and it fades away, and you're only as good as your last gig.
Yeah.
So for us, it's about being inclusive and also about offering as many different kind of experiences in different markets so that we stay relevant, because our brand wants to promote inclusiveness. I think the one thing is in this industry that I've particularly noticed is that guys like to stay and play in a space that they feel is their strength, which all respect to them. And I will always support the industry and those guys that are staying close to their roots. If they're, deep house promoters and that's all they're pushing, or if they're EDM promoters and that's all they're pushing, and they're pushing commercial gigs or they're pushing techno, whatever the case is. But for us, we want to be inclusive. So like a show like Concrete at Sonnage, because that's the name of the show, is called Concrete.
Yeah.
That was about a really good production based on the old 90s rave culture. So it's at a warehouse. So it's a very different experience where the outside floor is kind of more deep house, and then the inside floor kind of starts more kind of minimalistic, organic to melodic house, up through to like kind of high energy, progressive and peak time techno. So it's a different kind of experience, whereas like a yacht party that we host in Cape Town coming up in October, that will kind of be more kind of sultry, more kind of soft, elegant, sophisticated kind of deep house and house music. So it's, for us, it's more about the settings.
You've done a yacht party before?
Yes, we did one in January already this year.
Yes. And how are they going?
So we've got another one. So obviously it's going. It's a very different kind of market, and I think this is indicative to what I just said right now, is that we want to play in all these different spaces, because South Africa is so rich, again, with the spaces, one, that you can play in, the crowds that you can attract. And I think also the challenge of educating people that are not familiar with a certain type of movement or sound is also something that we like to kind of take on, So the yacht party, for one, this will be our second one this year. We'll do 2 a year.
Okay.
It's going well. We're under planning. We're about to launch our save the date, even though I've just kind of given away the date right now.
It's okay.
And that really is a show that's really about an experience. It's a weekend in Cape Town. You get booked into a hotel for 2 days, breakfast included. You go out on a yacht. You're out for about, 8 to 12 hours, just grooving, swimming, vibing.
I think we need to do some serious research as 5FM, and I think we need to I need to convince somebody to pay for us to come down and to experience this, just to appreciate what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
I would love to have you guys, and if there is a way in which we could make it work, definitely
a
producers, I hope you're listening.
Yeah. No, it's not about the producers, it's about the sponsors.
Yeah, let's get them.
Yeah. No, but okay, so you there's a lot that you're that's
so much. So we've got living room that we host every last Sunday of the month, which post-COVID has now become their flagship Sunday.
Yeah, and we've got plenty of 5FM affiliated DJs who've played and done certain things.
100%.
One of the main reasons why you are on my radar again is because your name was being bounced around the 5FM halls a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to Travisto about you.
I love Travi, man.
Yeah,
what a gem.
So he's obviously playing in that space as well. He's got a lot of very interesting gigs that he's doing. I know that Smiley is one of his events coming up. So when you are talking to other promoters and that sort of thing, what's the vibe like? Is it like a competition vibe, or is it more like, how can I help you? How can I book you? Like, what's the...
So I think there's just two sides of this coin always. I think there's guys that want to have conversations and are open to have conversations and want to grow together. And then obviously there are guys that want to just stay in their own space and actually don't want the noise from outside of them because they're so fixed and stuck into being purists in whatever else they're pushing. So to the guys that I do speak to, I think we're kind of more like-minded and like-hearted in that regard. And with the guys that I'm not speaking to, because I still perform at some of those places or I still work with some of those spaces, they're still like-minded and like-hearted, but we're not having the discussions about, what we see in the future, what we're growing to. And I think the most important point that I can make on that is based off the fact that we are trying to be a lot more inclusive in terms of involving everyone that we can. And I think a lot of these other players have already a set foundation, structure and process in terms of who they're booking, who they want around them, and that kind of following. So yeah, it's like, two sides of that coin. But the conversations that I am having are very progressive, very positive, because it's inclusive. Everyone gains, everyone wins. How do we do things together? Many hands make light work. Of course, from being in the industry for as long as I've been in, and I know, I've probably been in this industry for half the time that compared to some of the guys that I look up to, and even some of the guys that I work with currently right now. But for the time that I've been in this industry, I've noticed that being more inclusive actually allows us to create more opportunities, which then propagates growth for the industry. I certainly don't want to be a part of this and not leave anything behind for my children or an understudy or, like the Verve kids or my younger brother or whoever else is working under me to take over, you know. So I kind of have a more holistic kind of approach to it. And also because I'm an artist that plays in all of these spaces, to amalgamate them makes the most sense for me, because I also don't want to be put in a box as an artist that I'm only part of, for example, the techno scene. When, you know, exactly.
When you don't only play techno, there's 20 different genres that you
100%.
play. So let's actually talk about that for a little bit. Your musical tastes, and I'm talking about now.
Me, preference, preference.
When you climb into the car right now and you,
I'm gonna blow your mind.
What are you listening to?
So I listen to kind of everything under the sun.
Okay.
I was raised in a jazz background.
Okay.
The first time I played vinyl, I was 3. So music is. I've been just indoctrinated in music. My mom used to sing. My dad was in a jazz band. He played bass, guitar, drums. So I would listen to anything from Jamiroquai to Bonobo to Michael Jackson to scores from movies and soundtracks to hip-hop. And I've been listening to a lot of garage recently because I love garage. I actually grew up on garage. So I've been listening to a lot of that recently. Funny enough, I will not listen to dance music in the car.
No.
I pull all of my inspirations from those other genres, and then I get in the studio and I write and I kind of put that out there. So dance music for me is my expression,
right?
And the other music is more kind of my inspiration. I do look at what other guys are doing and the sounds that they're putting out, but I don't ever use that as a kind of base or level meter for what my music needs to sound like, because I think the one thing people get really confused about when they're writing music is they're just trying to hear if something sounds good when it's supposed to be about how the music makes you feel.
Exactly.
So that's why I listen to that kind of music when I'm driving.
So it's interesting that you should say that. I play in a hard rock band, and we're right now going through a phase where we're writing music. And I find on writing days, I'm not listening to any rock at all. Yeah. Like I'm listening to very, very weird stuff. Like everything from old school punk rock to old school jazz to like new school like trip hop and So it's interesting. Okay, so the way in which we wrap up the Fringe is we always talk about your Mount Rushmore of artists. So that's 4 artists that you want to put on your Mount Rushmore. Who would it be?
So. I don't really like name dropping, but I think my Mount Rushmore is just based on my own personal experience in my life, how the music has impacted me, and how it makes me feel. So in no specific order, Hans Zimmer, who's a score.
You're the second person to mention
Listen,
this. Bongani Zulu also said the same thing.
Amazing, because you just can't. Just the gear that he has and the way that he evokes emotion, through synthesis and modular and whatever it is, it's just amazing. It's so emotive. Bonobo, amazing. Like also the fact that he writes music and then invites choirs to perform this music. It's just like ridiculous. Yeah. Jamiroquai, my all-time favorite band.
Yeah.
And then I'm not gonna drop any other names outside of that in a dance music spectrum, because I think I've been influenced by so many.
Yes.
And for the ones I don't notice, don't mention, I feel like I do it a bit of an injustice. But those 3 for me are kind of like the focal points of my musical background, along with like bands like Foreplay, for example, which is like a jazz band.
Yeah.
And in terms of dance music, Ryan Murgatroyd is actually my educator. I'm a personal
shout out to South African music.
I'm a personal student of Murg's, and I love everything he's done for the industry, to the syllabuses he's written that are at Soul Candy, and I think parts of them were written at Boston Media House. Please don't quote me, obviously we're unscripted. I don't know how much they've used, but
Soul Candy has got a bunch of artists that they.
So I would put Ryan. I would put Ryan on there just because of one. I think he's super talented. He's knowledgeable. He's done a lot for the South African dance scene. He's done a lot for South African music industry, and I'd put him next to someone like Chris Sen, because Chris Sen is also another producer in this country that people are not actually aware of. 1, how good he is. 2, all of the works and projects that he's been involved in, and 3, the kind of attraction and appeal he has to a global scale, and the artists and agencies and record labels that are talking to him about having his music on board. So I think that's 5, hey?
Well, that's fine. We'll leave it there. No, cool. Pablo, thank you so much for coming through. In the next episode of The Fringe, I'm going to be talking to an Afro-tech artist. And I want to know from there, where do I need to go? Who's the next person that I need to be talking to? Or what's the next genre of The Fringe that I need to be looking at in South Africa?
So I think Amapiano right now really needs some core focus. I think if you're looking at what it's doing globally, and in retail spaces, I mean, before you'd walk into retail, you'd hear pop music playing, you'd hear Billboard Top 100.
Yeah.
Every single retail shop you go into now, every single restaurant you go into now, you're going to hear Amapiano.
Yeah.
How long it's around for, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be another phase in music through the cycle that we go in, and you understand these cycles that, you know, things were at an electro space at one stage in 2008, then went kind of more like twitchy and fidgety, then into like minimal, then deep house, then it's come back to techno, and now we've got Kom and Amapiano and all these things. But I think us being truly South African, we need to focus on what makes us South African. So I think Amapiano, Kom, those are some focus. I think you need to, and not so much on the commercial side, like the names that people are familiar with.
Yeah,
I think we need to be looking at the underground side.
Well, that's the whole point about the Fringe, is we look at we look at the artists that are on the Fringe of 5FM and we bring them in.
Because I've heard some names that, and I'm not going to name drop, but I've heard some names out in the market when I'm talking to people, and I give them names that are commercially appealing to other people that know the specific genre, and they're like, that's not Amapiano, like this.
Right.
So there's a whole new culture now around the specific genre, and I think as South Africans we need to pay more attention to that.
Awesome. Pablo, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
Bless.
Yeah, I can't do no small talk, no small talk. I'm not with the small talk. Can't be with the small talk.